It's the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show is sponsored by only one sponsor, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help you maximize your use of marketing automation and CRM, CheshireImpact.com. Bam! Today's guest, super excited about today. Now, I got to tell you, resume is super long. You guys, social wizard. We've moved on themes here. So now we're talking social this month. New month, new theme for the CSI. And this one is all about social, integrating social to everything you do. And I have a social wizard. I have a chief master sergeant of socialness and social video. He's an author. He's a playwright, which we'll also talk about. And as we needed any more, he's the head of marketing at Socito. Adam Hutchinson, how are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome today. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. And for anyone else that hears, and my voice doesn't sound as buttery, we had the most crazy technical thing earlier, but you were so patient. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, man.
So today we're talking about integrating social, and we were sharing earlier, the theme ties into that marketing automation success index. The idea of before you go blasting this or doing this campaign or that campaign, you gotta hit first steps first, second steps second. And we've talked about integrating reporting. We've talked about knowing your buyers. Now we're moving right along. We've even talked about content marketing. Now we're talking about you've got some great content. Let's get these things out there. We're starting to push things out and starting to engage our audience and really want to integrate social into everything we do. And no better than to have you here, who I see blowing up Twitter and every channel I can possibly find. And so glad to have you here. Want to pass the baton to you. Are there any myths you want to just crush right up front? Any bogus strategy, anything that just every time you hear it, you just kind of cringe and you want to punch the wall?
Yes. This is probably the biggest myth for social media marketing, but it's also my personal biggest pet peeve. So we're going to stop it right now. We're going to make people get on the same page. So
yes,
it's this idea that you can just post your way to success on social media. So what I see all the time, nonstop, and especially from B2B companies, they're the worst offenders, is they just take their content calendars and they push them out on social media in their feed.
Right.
And so then their feeds just end up being just this one after another nonstop. It's the title of the blog post, the link to the blog post, and then the little header image for the blog post. And that's all it is down the train. And they're publishing, maybe 5 to 10 times a week, and that's about it. And honestly, if you're just taking your content strategy and putting it on social media, that's not a social media strategy, right? That just doesn't work for social
Interesting.
media.
Social media strategy, content marketing strategy, they tie in together, but they are not the same thing. So don't just approach it like that. Don't just make social the channel you just crap out all your content onto.
Exactly. And especially for B2B, because the problem is, we've used to use social media as this kind of just external traffic channel where we're going to get some more visitors to our pages, and that's not working anymore, right? So these social media channels, the engagement rates on a per post basis are declining. It's no lie that in 2017, total engagement rates across the social networks declined by 20%, and that's continuing into 2018. Now, that's not a bad sign. It doesn't mean that these networks are dying. It just means that the engagement that's happening is getting more focused. So if we're just posting, we're going to get less visibility. It's going to reach less people over time, and our content's not going to work the way we want it to. Whereas if we're focusing on kind of this native engagement on these platforms, all of a sudden we start to cut through the noise and really build our audience on social.
Interesting. Now, I got to say, one of the other things, and maybe we can squash this too, you mentioned the stats are going down. And before I ask you, help me fix this, the other question is does this even matter? Like, why is social even on our roadmap, maturity model? Why are we even talking? Why are you spending so much of your day on social? Are you just wasting your time? I mean, B2B, is it there or is it dying? Is the question.
Yeah, I mean, look, for some companies, they are just keeping the lights on social media, but that doesn't have to be the way. If you think about the fact that over 90% of all adults in North America are on social media, and it's just under 90% for Europe, and then the fact that 84% of B2B decision maker buyers actually turn to social media to do research on companies, to look at competitors, and to gather reviews from peers on social media.
Right.
That's huge. That sounds like an actual B2B channel to me. We're just not really using it effectively.
And you yourself, right? You get
Yeah.
leads for Socito, and I think you told me a percentage. What was the percent?
Yeah, we generate
Huge amount.
40% of our
40%.
pipeline at
Dang.
Socito actually comes from social media.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, it is a
yeah.
lot. And some of it's direct, right? Some of it's the typical mindset of social of we're going to post this content, we're going to drive people to a landing page, they're going to fill out a form and then convert.
Sure.
That's
Sure.
a segment of it. But when we really look at social media holistically, then we start to look at, all right, here's all of the organic engagements we're driving on social that actually turns into organic traffic. And then on top of that, we've kind of connected social media with our MarTech systems, which we can talk about here in a little
Yeah.
bit. And
Yeah.
so we're actually maybe starting the conversation on social, then continuing the conversation on email or via phone or at a conference. So when we
Oh,
start to tie social in with our entire MarTech stack, really make it a demand gen system, that's when we start to see the power of social really come to play.
interesting. Are you getting a lot of people in my head? I'm thinking top of the funnel. You get a lot of that just browsing, just visiting, then you get them in, or you also get the folks converting
No,
different
Casey,
places.
that's the other myth that I wanted
Is
to
that a myth?
bust is this
Yeah,
idea
bust
that
it, man.
yeah, social media is not just top of the funnel. Of course, that's
Really?
a big piece of it, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's this mindset that we have that, oh, social is just for driving traffic to our content. So we have to post thought leadership stuff. We have to post blogs and then we'll convert people. But that's so false because when we actually think about it, by the time that people are following us on multiple networks on social media, they're also probably following our competitors at that point. They're also
True.
following influencers at that point. That
Right.
sounds to me like a person who's already evaluating or educating themselves about a solution. If we kind of
Right.
think about the funnel stages, right?
Right.
So sure, there's the awareness play. Do post that blog post content. Do make yourself a thought leader because that's important, of course. But really, once we have followers on social media, we should be engaging them one-to-one, almost in a sales funnel already once we have them. Because they are already doing research. And guess what? If you're not doing it, your competitors, I can promise you, are reaching out to them on social already.
Right. So actually engage them one-on-one. I mean, everything marketing tends to be talking about at scale, at let me
Right.
engage 30 people all at once. And I can sniff out when that's happening. And I always try to coach my team to know when to use one versus another. But that's not how you build relationships. So how do you do one-to-one though, if you've got a whole 40% of your leads, and how do you pick and choose?
Right. Well, I mean, look, it's not going to happen overnight. And I have a
Yeah.
lot of sympathy for people who are still just using it social as a traffic strategy, and that's
Right.
fine. But, it does take some technology. It does take a social media management platform that we can
Got
actually
it.
look at on a people by people basis. Now, the nice thing is every social media management platform these days has some kind of tie into the leading marketing automation systems, whether
Right.
it's Hootsuite, whether it's Sprout Social, whether it's Octopost. You can, at the very minimum, build segments based off of B2B demographics now
Yes.
on social media. So you can see, oh, here's the 20 people in a certain industry or a certain job title who are interacting with my campaign about the latest white paper that I just published, right? Now, if
Right.
we want to get even more sophisticated, we can take these solutions and tie them directly one-on-one into our marketing automation system. So we see, oh, this lead that I've had in my database for 2 years, they went cold after a conference. They haven't been opening my emails, but they just retweeted me on social media, or they're talking about a competitor. Now I can reach out to them because they're starting to re-engage. So that's kind of the first piece of it. Again, that's not easy. It's not going to happen
Right.
overnight, but there is technology now that can do it. The second piece of it is to really align sales and marketing, which
Mm.
again, a whole other topic
Good
that we can
point.
get
Yeah.
into.
Good point.
But
Good rabbit hole there. Yeah.
once we can pass this data over to our sales team. I mean, just think about it. If a salesperson knew that their lead was following a specific competitor on social media and retweeting them
Oh
versus the
yeah.
whole wide range, that's a much more targeted conversation. They can speak much more intelligently to their leads. That's actually really, really easy data from a social media side of things to pass over to the sales team,
Right.
as well as just being active with them. And then finally, for the B2B space specifically, you have to be a lot more proactive with social media. So again, it's not just about the content that you're putting out there that people are engaging with. It's about, who do I want to go engage with? Let me go
Right.
tag them in posts. Let me go send them a specific piece of content. Let me go send them a message or retweet them, get on their radar. And I'm not going to do that to all 20,000 leads in my system. I'm going to do it to the 50 most active leads. I'm going to do it
Got
to
it.
the people that I want to engage with and try to get into the sales funnel. So once we start to target people down at a, account by account level or a lead by lead level.
Sure.
Then we actually take the same tasks that social media managers are doing on a daily basis, response management and posting content, we're just making it a lot more effective because we're targeting it.
That sounds really cool because it's a step up from, let me pay some, intern to manage my social and, share, lightweighted things. But this is targeted. You're targeting people. You're going after them. You're doing the research to see, or maybe you can even see through, like you said, technology. You can see who else they're following. You can see what they're up to, if they have retweeted you, and you're specifically going after them. It's like that ABM type targeting of, I see you directly, you in person, and then giving them what they're looking for and building that relationship on Twitter. And then to your point, being able to say, hey, sales, we're already BFFs on Twitter. Don't mess this up.
Right.
They're ready to go. Here, call them or something.
Right, exactly. And I mean, this is where marketers are going to have to go anyways, because the social platforms are changing, right?
Yes.
I like to think of social media kind of like SEO 10 years ago. We started out with the hacks. We had the automated bots. We had our link building techniques that got us the traffic. And then Google changed its algorithm. And all of a sudden, we had to change everything again.
Right.
And now we're really at a point in SEO. And, no offense to any SEO managers out there, but the trick to SEO these days is just to create great content, right?
100%.
Right?
There's no magic to it.
Exactly.
I always tell people it's like 10% tech, just making sure, there's a button in WordPress that says, don't let spiders index, don't let Google index me. Whatever you do, don't click that. But it works. If you click that, no one shows up. So that's 10%. But then the rest of it, to your point, just good content shared socially,
Exactly. And that's where the social media platforms are going, right? We
evolving.
had the follow unfollow bots for a while. We had, reposting the same content over and over again until people click on it.
Right.
Those tools worked for a little while, but now we're at a place where Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of these platforms are changing their algorithms, and they're really prioritizing end user engagement, because that's how you keep time on site up. That's how you keep people coming back to your platforms.
Right.
And so for a brand, sure, in the short term, we're actually going to see our engagements with our posts drop. But that's not a bad thing. What that means is that we can focus on those really core pieces of content, those native pieces of content on social that encourage engagement. And the way all these algorithms work is, once someone's engaging with one of your posts, they start to see a lot more of your posts.
Right.
On Facebook, it's literally, you're scrolling through the feed. Even if you just kind of pause for a second on one of your friends' posts, guess what? You start to see a lot more of their posts, even if you didn't click on it. Same
really?
things happen. Oh yeah. It's literally based off of tracking your scroll, what's on your screen, and the time that you're spending looking at each thing.
See, sometimes if I see an ad that I hate on Facebook or Twitter, I know that they pay for replies and comments. So I'll write back to that and reply and be like, this is dumb, just because I know it costs them money. Then apparently I'm screwing myself, because they're going to show me that ad more because they think I like it because I commented on it.
Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly what's going to happen. So you got to be careful there, Casey.
Yeah.
There's a dark side to everything. But for brands, it's nice because it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Is once you start to build this kind of micro community, you might get less reach, you might get less engagements, but the people you are reaching are going to continue to see your brand, be a lot more engaged with your posts, and eventually that does turn into conversions down the funnel.
Interesting. The idea of a micro community. What would you do? Just like a smaller, more refined community is what you would call a micro community?
Yeah, so a micro community is really just anyone. It's a kind of a group of people who are coming around on this social platform intended for a specific topic. So I'm not just going to log in and see my big feed. I'm coming in to see this specific topic. And so on LinkedIn, this might be a LinkedIn group. On Facebook, it might be a group, or an event even can be a little micro community. On Twitter, it could be a tweet chat or a group DM or something, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can create these. It doesn't have to be crazy. Some brands are simply spinning up multiple Twitter handles, each around different personas. That's a great way to create a little micro community. Obviously, each one's only going to have a few thousand followers, but if they know exactly what they're going to be getting, they're going to be a lot more engaged with that handle, and they'll start to see more posts that are relevant to them.
That's really interesting. So a separate Twitter handle or a separate social, even group on LinkedIn, specific to that micro community. And to your point, the numbers will be lower because we're getting more refined. So we have to break out of that mentality that, I want to get 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 400,000 on this thing. I want to get the smaller group of the right people. So my message can be super targeted. Like maybe you could do an email.
Right. Exactly. And that's not to say that building a big following isn't a bad thing, because you do want the credibility if there's a PR play to it. But so for example, a brand F5 Networks, who's a customer of Succedo, they've taken this approach. They have their F5 Networks handle, which is huge. They're a big company. They're very well known and respected in the DevOps space. Sure. But then they also launched a new Twitter handle called F5 Labs. It only has a few thousand Twitter handle followers on it right now. And they actually don't post anything about their own products. All it is the latest news happening in the SecOps space. And so everyone is a security IT admin professional that's following this handle, and they care about every single tweet that comes up on that Twitter feed. So they're paying attention to it. A lot of their followers have their notifications turned on for it because they want to know what's happening, and it's super valuable to them and very relevant. And so even though, F5 might not be driving as much traffic to their webinar that the demand gen team is creating, they actually have a much more loyal following now that eventually comes to F5 when they have a security need.
And that makes sense too, because you can't put that level of information on, say, your overall brand, because there's all sorts of personas coming to it. There's across the board. And then all you're doing is providing noise for the other 95% of people who don't want to hear that. But then targeting F5 Labs, people know to go to that one to get that. That's really cool. I could see them. It's like taking the lessons of being super efficient and super relevant on email or email marketing and all these other buyer persona lessons, but taking those same lessons and putting them into social.
Exactly. And, a really easy way to start for a lot of B2B brands, you don't have to have a big tool. You don't have to spin up a bunch of campaigns. Use it via employee advocacy. So if you have sales reps or product managers who work with a specific persona or specific line of business, the content that they're sharing from your brand should be relevant to that line of business, because that's who they're interacting with anyways. So make sure when you're setting up your social campaigns, whether you're giving them tweets that they can publish on their own or have a content repository, have them share stuff around a specific persona and build up that audience. That's going to be helpful for them in their jobs as well.
Right. Having the whole company share makes a lot of sense. I was chatting with Sonia from Drift, and they blew up the internet the other day when they had all 120 of their employees all make a LinkedIn video at the same time.
Yeah.
Same day. Even tech, like I was like, really? Even the coders, they all did it. Some they had to twist their arms a little bit, but everyone else, they all did it, and then it just blew up everything. So but now that's ideal. How do you do it at your company, and then how do you get everyone involved in that, and how do you get folks to do that, and maybe they haven't been doing that already?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a couple different approaches you can take. Internally here at Succedo, we kind of centralize everything through the marketing team. So anyone who wants to, they can actually just hook up their profiles into our social media management platform.
Oh, cool.
And we'll start posting for them. We're not going to spam anyone, but
cool.
We'll share the content on their behalf, and then they can still share their own personal things. They can share something they find really interesting about Succedo. But that way, from a marketing standpoint, we can keep our messaging aligned. And they know that as their Twitter handles grow, they're actually sharing the relevant content without even having to think about it. So it helps.
That's a good point. It also
helps them, right? So that's one great way to do it if people are willing to kind of just hook everything up through marketing. I've found that a lot of companies, people are willing to do that. They'll just kind of hand over, say, don't spam anyone, but hey, go for it. Make me an influencer in this space. If that's not an option for your company, a great way to do it is actually to highlight people who are doing it really well in your company, get more people on board, and then find some success stories. So one thing that we found with another company that we worked with, they had some of their sales reps use this kind of Twitter marketing technique in their sales process, where they would, follow their leads on Twitter, retweet some of their tweets, and then actually mention a relevant tweet in their first outreach email. Say, hey, I saw you tweeting about X, wanted to reach out and talk to you about it. Their response rate on those emails was about double what they typically get on their, automated outreach sales emails. And so that was a huge win for those sales reps. They were able to hit their quotas. Their peers maybe not so much that month. And so all of a sudden you look across the aisle at the people who are doing social media in your company and those who aren't, and you start to see the benefits for it. So, crawl, walk, run, start with something that makes sense for your organization. But a lot of people are really willing to buy in once they see how it can help them do their jobs.
Totally. I love both of those ideas. The idea of, look, you're busy. Without even thinking about it, you're going to be starting to share value on your Twitter account.
Right.
And Scouts Honor, we're not going to blast them from your account. And then secondarily, finding those success stories. That works really well in sales. Hey, we've done some sales training before, and we don't even tell people, you must do this. We say, look, we did this, and we closed $1 million, and it worked. So take it or leave it. And they're like, okay, maybe I will, but especially if it's competitive, like you versus another rep, and you're like, how did they beat me last month? I made 1,000 calls. Okay, well, they were actually integrating social and Twitter, and they were dropping that into their email when they were first reaching out, and look at here their open rates. So It's like no brainer. I guess I'm going to do that too.
Right.
No, is that something that Socito does? Because and maybe just explain, what it does. It's a social platform, right? And how does it help with the lead generation?
Yeah, so Socito is really a demand generation platform to help B2B marketing kind of across the pipeline. So on one end of the spectrum, we do generate net new leads via social media based on who's interested in you on social. So, we'll target people just like I talked about. Let's get targeted down to those topic interests, those micro communities, the keywords that people are tweeting about, the influencers that they're following, the competitors that they're following, anything that might signify interest. We'll go out, we'll follow those people. We can generate them as net new leads, connect those to email addresses, and pump those into your database. So you have some net new, really warm, engaged context. They're already receiving your content on social media.
Yeah.
They're a lot more willing to receive your email content as well and respond to you when you actually start to reach out. So that's one end of the spectrum. Then, of course, we can continue to track what they're doing on social media. So if someone starts to click on that link that you sent them, or you get a net new follower who's already in your system, you want to know about that. That can help you segment your leads. That way your followers are going into a really rich content campaign. Your non-followers or maybe still need to be kind of awareness generated at the top of the funnel. And of course, you can pass that data to the sales team. So that's really where kind of the rubber meets the road, is that once we generate these net new leads that are actually interested in these topics, whether it's an event, a competitor, an influencer, or a topic, we can pass those leads all the way down the funnel. You can nurture them to your sales team, and they know that these leads have been interacting with your brand on social media. And we find that socially engaged leads tend to convert about 25% higher rate than leads from other sources. And again, it's not magic. It's simply because they're continuing to receive your content on social. They have a relationship with your brand. They're much warmer than leads that you just generated from a campaign, right?
Sure, and you're continuing the conversation. The engagement doesn't have to stop. I wouldn't even argue that, clicking on an email is necessarily engagement. I mean, they are technically showing signs of life, but that versus them actively doing something on social where they're sharing your message, or, at replying you or anything like that, it seems like a lot more of an engagement, a deeper, richer engagement than just, oh yeah, we got some opens on this email. Something like that.
Right. And I always like to think about kind of marketing success metrics in terms of what's the next step.
Yeah.
So someone clicks on an email. That's awesome. They saw the blog post. They saw whatever landing page I took them to.
Sure.
But I don't know if they actually cared about it once they landed there. All I know is that they clicked a call to action that sounded good because I A/B tested the call to action to death.
Right.
If someone's engaging with me on social media, it's because they want to engage. They proactively logged in. They found that tweet, or they saw that tweet. They clicked on it, they retweeted it, they shared it, they commented on it. That takes time out of someone's day, and that's a personal investment. It costs me nothing to click on an email. It does cost me time and attention to engage with someone on social media. So I actually have a reason to reach out for them in that point.
That's such a cool point, because we do a lot of work and training on forms, and a lot of work with marketing automation. And one of the things that I love talking about is when you measure something or any of your metrics, the more work someone had to do it, the more value you should probably give that, which is why, and I know some people hate forms, but I like forms as long as they're not gigantic, they're not 12 fields, but if there's some sexy marketing automation form where they're getting all dynamic and they're as small as possible, they're efficient and they're smart, maybe they pre-filled your email address for you, those kind of forms.
Yeah.
I still like that because it's like a barter of information. You gave me some of your information, I'm giving you some of my information, as opposed to, here, just click this and I'll give that to you. Even if it just means confirming that form, you don't have to even enter anything. You just confirm. I still like that because it took them like that much more to do that. And it kind of gives you, so whenever we rate things or score things, I give more weight to the things that took more time for them to do.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right. I love that. And I'm a fan of forms too.
Yay. All right.
That's my demand gen geeky background. But, I love, it's all about kind of what's the relationship that someone wants to have with your brand. If they're filling out a form, obviously they want to know more from you and they want you to know more about them.
Right.
Think about it the same way as like, what are they doing on your site? I know a lot of people these days are kind of measuring how many pages did they visit before they converted. That can be a lead scoring metric to give them more weight, right?
Yeah, or sure.
Are they looking at just the first kind of few pages of the ebook, or are they actually clicking through to multiple sections of the ebook? Same thing on social media. With the rise of video today, now we can actually see, are people interacting with my entire video? If someone's watching even a 5-minute video on social media,
right,
that's huge, right? That's a big time investment on the fast forward of social media versus someone just kind of scrolling through and maybe seeing an ad impression or something.
Totally. Yeah. It's funny, the parallels, because we've often, there's certain plugins where if someone watches like 45 minutes of your 1 hour long webinar, give them some credit because that took them time out of their day. But to your point, the faster moving world of social, someone watched your, 5 minutes is actually a long time on social. I think the average Facebook video is probably like just over a minute and a half, right? So, if they spent 5 minutes, they were actually engaged. Either you had an amazing video with a unicorn and ice cream and all sorts of stuff, or you actually really wanted to hear your message. So giving credit to that. But you brought up a great point, video. Now even when I was pulling up your Twitter profile earlier, to sort of get my mind full of all sorts of things to talk about, I'm seeing you talk on Twitter. I'm seeing, videos, Twitter videos left and right. And I know we started chatting about this a little bit before we got on here, is that you've experimented with video on social all over the place. And then you sort of focus on Twitter. So maybe you could explain, have you tried LinkedIn video? Have you tried the video different places? And then, what made you then focus it on Twitter?
Yeah. So we've tried video across pretty much all the platforms. We've tried YouTube, just kind of native uploads. We've tried YouTube Live. We've tried Facebook Live. We've tried Facebook uploads. LinkedIn now lets you actually do native uploads of videos under 10 minutes for personal profiles.
Wait, no, native? As in, will they record it straight on there? Or don't you have to upload the actual video file?
You have to upload the file, but they can host it on LinkedIn, and then it auto plays in the feed if it's hosted on LinkedIn.
I've seen those, yeah.
Yeah. And so they'll do that now for personal profiles. They're rolling it out for company profiles. And then, of course, on Twitter, we're using Periscope for live video. Now, really what we found across the board is that every time we do a Periscope video on Twitter, we instantly, on the live feed, have easily 100 viewers on that. And we have a ton of followers, and so that's great. And 100 doesn't sound like a lot, but what we see within the first 24 hours is that number jumps up to 500. And then a few weeks later, we're in the thousands of video views. Now on YouTube, go ahead, look at the Socito YouTube page, and we're in the 12, 20, 30, right? We're not talking about a lot of views. It takes a lot of time to get people to YouTube views. And same thing if we post a video on something like Facebook or upload a video somewhere else, it's going to get, again, a couple hundred, a few hundred views maybe over time. But these Periscope videos, they live on, and they're getting thousands of views every time we post one. And there's a couple reasons why this is happening on Twitter specifically. So one is that Twitter's prioritizing rich media as much as possible. This is part of the broader umbrella idea of engagement on their platform. And so every time you do a Periscope video, one, it shows up at the top of anyone who's following you, their feed, when they log in.
Okay.
Two, it's actually showing up in search at the top of those feeds. So someone's like clicking through on a hashtag, like hashtag marketing, and we happen to use the word marketing in our title for our video. That's showing up at the top of that feed.
Wow.
Live. And then people are getting notifications every time we're going live on Periscope. So it's really well optimized. And the nice thing about Twitter especially is that it gets shared very, very quickly. So unlike a Facebook video or a YouTube video where it's a little bit more difficult to actually share that with your network, or if you do, it's going to go to a smaller group of friends. If you're sharing it on Twitter, it's getting in front of the entire feed of your network on Twitter. So we see even with just a few retweets on a Periscope video, it actually can reach, tens of thousands of people instantly.
Jeez.
And so then, of course, if, a few thousand of those will actually be on it to watch the video, but it gets spread very, very rapidly on Twitter. And it just kind of works. It's actually a really nice kind of format to look at on Twitter. Also, the nice thing about Periscope is it's easy. So whether you're doing Periscope, whether you're doing Facebook video, YouTube video, I don't care. Start small and start stupidly simple is what I say. Don't worry about the tech behind. We're not great video makers. Look at our videos. They're not fantastic, right? They're fine. Don't invest a ton in technology yet.
Yeah.
Just start small. Use your smartphone. Put it somewhere with decent lighting, decent audio, and record a video of yourself talking 10 minutes about something that you are an expert on that other people need to know and that they care about. And guess what? That's the magic right there. It's just giving content that people want. So when I say care about content quality on video, it's not the quality of the lighting. It's not the quality of the video per se. It's the quality of, is this content relevant to my audience? Is anyone going to care about what I'm saying? And all of a sudden you'll see that magic kind of happen and that video will get shared, spread, people commenting on it that never comment on any of our posts, or all of a sudden like typing in, commenting on our videos. Hey, this was awesome. Thanks. What do you think about this? People are giving their ideas. Oh, actually, I'm not so sure about what you said here. I have a different viewpoint, and we can have a dialogue. That typically doesn't happen anymore for brands on social media. But video is really well optimized, again, to get it in front of people, but also keep people on that video to watch it and want to respond.
That's interesting. And it puts a human face to the brand too. I think that the more humanizing our brands are, the better, right? People want to buy from people. Buying from a company. The same thing with spam. People report companies for spam. A person, maybe it really was the person, right? It's like putting a face to the name. And you certainly do put a face to the Socito name. You're everywhere. And you're right. Those videos, they're really cool topics. They're not far off in some other field of talking about something that's not relevant. It's like really interesting. And I know sometimes you have other people, and it's funny, you kind of squeeze everyone in. Are you still using your phone for those? Or
yeah, we're still
yeah. So you get everyone in. It's kind of half, but it's real, and it's not fake, green screen. It's like, hey, just two experts talking about a subject we care about, and actually you care about.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, the nice thing about video too is it's so easy to repurpose. So we were just talking earlier about, don't just take your content calendar and kind of push it out on social and have the same post over and over again. The nice thing about a video is you can take it, you can, obviously take text experts of it and then put those out, but you can actually take your video, chop it up into different segments, repurpose it across the social platforms. Take a long video like this one that we're doing right now, chop it up into 10-minute segments, upload those on LinkedIn around each topic that we're covering right now. And all of a sudden you have a content calendar that's a lot more engaging than just the last 10 blog posts that you talked about.
Yeah, for sure. And I could see, even this last one, I'm sold on Periscope. Sometimes I'm like a little bit of a late adopter because I want, like the iPhone, I want other people to beta test it for me. So when I get it, it doesn't have any issues.
Right.
But yeah, I totally can relate when you mentioned like YouTube, because we put these videos on YouTube, and you're right, the views just crawl. It's a little faster on Stitcher and iTunes, but on YouTube it's like a different channel, and obviously you can see our awesome faces here. You can see me gesture around like I'm crazy. But yeah, those views are a lot slower than Facebook, a little bit more. But to your point, man, the explosion that could happen on Twitter, we'll totally do that. And I love the idea of chopping things up, though. That's really cool.
Yeah. And now the whole reason why this is working so well and why we use video, it's about 30% of the content we post ends up being video at the end of the day, which now it's not all net new video. Like I said, we're repurposing a lot of these things over and over again.
Right.
But the reason why video and just kind of rich media in general, whether it's GIFs or podcasts or whatever, is working so well on social is that it's this idea of native storytelling or native content on these platforms.
Yes.
Now, that native content is an idea that's existed for 10, 20 years now on the kind of media side of things. It's happening exactly the same on social media. So it's just this idea of the experience that we're going to create for our audience is going to happen on the platform where they're already spending their time. So we're
Right.
not trying to drive people to our blog. We're not trying to drive them to a landing page right away, right? We're going to create an experience already in the feed where they are, where they want to be. And so that's where our engagement rates start to go up. And that's why Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn are all prioritizing types of posts that keep people on their site.
Right.
It's for a selfish reason, but it's also for the end users, because if you have to click through a link, especially if you're on a smartphone, you get taken to a site that's not mobile optimized.
Not mobile
It's a bad
optimized.
experience.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's on their platform, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to know kind of what I'm clicking through on.
Totally.
You're just in the feed. And so it works really, really well. And so, it does mean though, as marketers, we need to kind of take a step back and free ourselves from this idea of like a content funnel where I'm just going to drive all my traffic to a piece of content, and then 2% of that's going to fill out the form and I'm going to convert them. And so, we've gotten into this mode where we measure social media based off of the traffic that we drive directly from our posts. Well, if every tweet has a less than 1% click-through rate, much less than 1% click-through rate, all of a sudden I need to be tweeting hundreds of times just to see any value from Twitter, which is fine, but that starts to run out, right?
Yeah, it does.
Whereas if I can publish one video that gets thousands of views, they're not going to click through right away, but I know over time that about 5 to 10% of those will make it to my landing page where I have a 2% conversion rate. All of a sudden, I'm converting 20 people instead of 2 people, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's not an easy pill to swallow for a lot of marketers. I get that. It's a different way of looking at social media and looking at analytics. But it means, one, we need to integrate social media with our MarTech system so we can actually track these things.
Right.
Who's engaging with us. We can track things over time, not just immediate conversions. And it means we need to be a little bit more sophisticated with analytics and think about traffic as it's coming from multiple sources, not just the direct source that it's coming from. So we need to be measuring things like correlation of, hey, my organic search increased when I did this video series around this hot topic, and all those views were coming into this specific content that was around that topic. Obviously, I know that delta between my baseline traffic and my net new traffic was generated from this social campaign, even if it's not directly coming from a social source. So it's a different way of kind of thinking about it. Again, it doesn't happen overnight, but that's where social's going. So we need to start to get comfortable as marketers to think about social media success in a more demand gen type of view.
Right. The challenge I wonder about this, and even native, because we were even talking about this because after one of these podcasts, we do a little bit of that report. I actually write a summary on LinkedIn and put that on there. But the debate we were having was, shouldn't we post that first on our own blog? But native's so easy, right? People, they can like it, they can share it right from LinkedIn. It's native content. But is Google indexing that instead of your site? Are you missing out on all that long tail, on all that SEO, on all those inbound traffics that will come long afterward? And also, don't you have the risk of that native app, that platform going rogue like Facebook, who, people for a long time sent all their followers to Facebook. Everyone liked the page. And then now they're like, oh, you want to reach all your followers? You got to boost that with a little extra money. Give a little bit more to Zuckerberg, and then you can reach your whole audience. So that risk of staying on a native platform versus getting off there. So how have you resolved that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a couple of different ways to look at it, and it really depends on how am I going to convert these leads over time. If I'm in the B2C world, absolutely, I want to drive people to my landing page as quickly as possible, right? Because it's a one and done conversion. In a B2B world, though, I'm trying to build a relationship over 6, 12, 18 months, depending on what my sales cycle is.
Sure.
And so, you could do the math of it. Obviously, I can't sit down and do the math for every business and try to tell you how it works. I'd be happy to if you want to call me up. I'm kind of a math nerd. But if you look at it over time, what's the end value that I'm delivering to that user at the end of the day? If I'm going to drive them to a piece of content, again, I have to post hundreds of times just to see one conversion. And that conversion is going to be into a piece of content or my email newsletter, where again, I'm going to have to nurture them for several weeks before I actually get a sales conversion, get them over the line. Versus on social media, if I get someone watching a video for 10, 20 minutes on YouTube or on Facebook or LinkedIn, all of a sudden that's 10 to 20 minutes that they just spent with my brand versus the email that is going to have a 20% open rate, a 2% click-through rate. They're going to spend a minute, 2 minutes on site. They're
Right.
not really engaging with me over time. And so again, it's a tough pill to swallow because you're right. You are capitalizing some of the traffic that you're going to be sending to your site. But if your conversion at the end of the day is only going to be one person out of 1,000 that's actually getting into the sales funnel, I'd much rather have those people on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn when I know that my click-through rate over time from my followers is 5 to 10%. And I know the conversion rate on those is actually 25% higher than what's in the rest of my funnel. So when you start to break down the math that way, when I actually get 100 people on a Facebook feed, that all of a sudden turns into 5 sales conversions over a 3-month period versus 100 people to a piece of content is 1 sales conversion over a 3-month period. So that's how to break it down, kind of, if you want to do the napkin math for it. But really, the best way to be looking at this is, again, to tie social media into your marketing automation system and compare apples to apples.
Right.
So again, and it doesn't have to be super, super complicated. You don't have to pay for the big integration out of the box. You can do it manually, get a list of your kind of top followers, pump them that CSV into your Marketo, Pardot, Eloquent system, and just track one lead versus another. And say, the people who have engaged with me on social media, followed, clicked, shared a tweet, versus those who haven't, what's the sales cycle on those two? And I promise you, what you find is that your socially engaged leads will convert at a higher rate and at a faster rate. And if that's not true, come yell at me. I'll take the blame for it. But I promise you that that's how the math works out. We just have to get out of our content funnel kind of mindset.
Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm even as you're talking, my head is trying to do a little of the napkin math for native content, native sharing. To your point, we could have a few people click through to my site, but if I'm not capturing every single one of them, or if that conversion rate is so low, then versus you didn't bring them to your site, but they're still engaging with you there more long term, they want to continue engaging with you, and eventually you have more chance to get them to the next spot where they can get captured.
Right. And I mean, look, people are spending tens of thousands of dollars on retargeting ads, display ads. Why would you do that? The click-through rate is much less than 1%.
Right.
They're not converting when they reach your site. Trust me, the conversion rate is terrible on those things. We still do it. Is that a bad investment? Usually no. We do it because we stay top of mind for these prospects. We're able to target them. We're building communities. It's the exact same value props as social. It's just a different way. And obviously you have to pay your way to do it. But, we've already figured it out on the display side of things. We figured it out on the content syndication side of things. It's the same mindset for social.
Right.
We just have to start tracking it, actually holding ourselves accountable to looking at the metrics.
Totally. That last part is the key thing. It's like, look, we can tell you this is the right thing to do. We can tell you to engage on the native platform. Now, by the way, quick question before we get to that. Yeah. Do you also have content on your blog that sort of mirrors what was on your video, or do you still address that SEO side and that blog side, or are you just straight out social it?
No, I mean, look, we still
guns
have
out, guns out kind of thing.
I mean, hey, I wish I could do everything on social, right? That'd be great. Look, we still have a blog. We're still publishing new content there. We're still, trying to rank for SEO keywords.
Sure.
But what we do actually is we take a social first mentality when it comes to content. So everything that you see that's written by us on our blog was a post on social media, or more likely a video on social media first. We saw that it was successful. The audience cared about it. And so we wrote a blog post that was similar on the same topic, and we put that on our blog. That's the way that we test to see if content is going to work or not. Again, other people have different ways of testing popular content, whatever, it doesn't matter. Social for us is this huge resource of our best audience and our most engaged people. So that's why we turn to social first. And so then, again, we talked about this at the beginning of the show, is that SEO these days is about creating great content. So let me start with the content that I know is going to work, and then we can do the SEO thing. We can do the blog optimization thing after that.
Right. That's interesting. We sort of share this this mentality. Now I'm going to like Periscope the hell out of everyone. You created a monster, so that's going to happen. But I felt that you can create content like on this podcast. For me, it's this podcast, this sort of live conversation, video, if you will, the same kind of thing you're talking about, starts it all. It's almost like you start with that authentic conversation, and then from there you take that that real content, the authentic content, and now you can put it on all these different channels and different mediums, but it started in a real way. Like you chatting with someone else at Socito on video, and the cool ideas, the connections are happening, and people are like, well, breakthroughs. Now you take that cool experience and then you put it in other places, and it makes it that much more of a rich content. Right. So when you share it, it's not like this dry piece of turkey that got over baked in the oven. It's like you fried that turkey. By the way, we did that. We fried turkey, but it's like you fried that turkey and now everyone wants a piece. You know, they go, oh, okay. Yeah. It's almost like you can tell that this content was created in a natural way, or almost like a spur of the moment way, that had a real conversation you can always point back to. So I really like that you start from that. Start with social, start with that real live content. 30% of what you're doing, you said, is video to start with. And then from there, it gets spread around to all the different channels to make sure everyone gets a little bit of the fried turkey.
Get the turkey
afterward. Yeah, right? Get that turkey.
That's right.
So this is cool. And so one of the areas I want to take with this next is, so you obviously now you are working at a company with a technology, but someone else, look, we're telling you this is the right way to do it. I'm buying into it, but I see that, you know, you could just blindly buy into it, or what probably helps, especially if you have politics in your organization you have to navigate, is having the technology that gives you that reporting, that gives you the ability to see an ROI. So that it's not just, look, we know this is working, even just beyond the delta. We know specifically, because we tie into marketing automation, which is like the spinal column. You're tying everything into that. So you can see how social has affected, whether you brought in people, net new leads, or whether it influenced people along the way they're engaging. To be able to see that and track that and point to ROI, that really backs up the claim. And then obviously you're doing that, and that's why you're justifying 40% or more of your leads coming from social.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, and again, it doesn't have to be super complicated. I always say kind of start small, crawl, walk, run, prove your proof of concept, and then go from there.
Right.
Now, if we are talking about technology, kind of the first places to start are obviously, what's your social media management platform and how is that connecting into MarTech?
Right.
You got to
What do you use?
So we use Octopost here. Mm-hmm. It's a great platform for B2B companies to use specifically. This is how we kind of centralize management for all those Twitter handles or employee handles like we talked about. They also enable employee advocacy, and they tie directly into most of the marketing automation systems. So Pardot, Marketo, Eloqua.
Oh, cool.
And so what I can do from there is see, all right, this person's clicking on my tweet, and then they converted, even if they didn't convert off of the tweet that they clicked on.
Really? Get that original source tagging.
Exactly. And so I can see, you know, who did I generate from social? We found, you know, just when we started using Octopost, that about 10% of the leads that were coming organically were actually social media leads first, right?
Interesting.
So we use Octopost. Sprout Social, very, very similar. I also kind of recommend them if you want like a more simpler kind of starting point, but also the social listening piece on top of it. Sprout Social is really great at that. So if I want to see kind of organically what's happening on social, I can do that via Sprout Social and their integration with Simply Measured. And then of course, you know, that's only one piece of the puzzle. We talked about we have to be proactive in the B2B space. We can't just post our way to success. And so that's where a tool like Socito, and I'm going to be self-promotional for just a minute.
Yeah, man, do it. Yeah, this is cool.
You know, is that we want to actually target the audience that we want to be talking to. So it's great to build followers, but if they're not the followers that are going to become leads at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as much. And so that's where Socito steps in. We say, hey, here's the job titles that we want to go after on social. We're going to find those based off of social profiles.
That's cool.
Here's the topics that we want to be engaging with people on, whether it's competitors, events, etc. That's how we're going to target people. We're going to go follow them. That's how you gain your followers. And then, of course, we're going to sync those people directly into your system. So you have kind of your social media management platform side of thing, Octopost, Sprout, Social, Hootsuite, that's looking at my content calendar, what I'm organically posting, the people are coming to me. And then you pair that with an actual B2B targeting system like Socito, or even if you want to do it kind of manually yourself via spreadsheet, looking at your leads in Marketo or Eloqua or Pardot. And then I'm going to, you know, generate the net new leads into my system. And then start to engage them on social. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there, but really we're targeting our B2B audience and engaging them where they want to be engaged. That's how we increase conversions.
Interesting. That's really cool. By the way, great argument. You could use spreadsheets or you could use Socito. Like, kind
Right.
of a no-brainer there.
Right. It's like, we're not doing anything magic here at Socito. We're simply making it a ton easier for people to do what they're already doing on social, or what they should be doing.
Right. Now, do you see it obviously we talked about it's evolving, it's moving, it's changing.
Yep.
There's a lot of folks that are, younger folks that aren't on certain platforms. You always hear stories about the millennials aren't using Facebook because it's not cool. Everyone's on Snapchat. By the way, I've got Snapchat because that's how I let my babysitter. I ask her if she's available so we can go on date night. Right? It's like,
Right.
hey, it's so weird. But like Instagram is huge. Sometimes I actually saw someone from the team share a photo on Facebook, and then she shared it on Instagram. And some of us were liking it and hearting it on both platforms. There seems like there's a little bit of confusion, not sure what to use, so we kind of use it all, or it's a drug. So we're happy to go, oh, Facebook's all done. Let me go over here to Twitter.
Right.
But same thing with Twitter, and that for me was always kind of that. It was great for networking. It was great for business, especially B2B. Do you see that declining, or is it eventually something else? How do you sort of see the ecosystem these days?
Yeah. Look, it starts with the audience, right? That's
right.
For any company. I don't care what you are. It starts with the audience, be where they are. So what we see most generally is for B2B companies, the two platforms are Twitter and LinkedIn. And now I'll just say this real quick because I hear this all the time. Twitter's dying, Twitter's stopping, blah, blah, blah. That's not true.
No.
Literally the past couple of quarters, Twitter total user base has increased. Time on site has actually increased.
Got it.
Twitter's thriving, okay? But of course, LinkedIn too for B2B. Right. The reason why Twitter specifically for B2B is because it's the one platform where people are openly stating where they're working. And so you put that in your Twitter profile of I'm marketing manager at Aptentive or whatever it is. Everyone puts that in their Twitter profile. So it's so easy to kind of find these people, engage with them. And then the other nice thing about Twitter is that the user behavior for Twitter is to look at multiple types of posts, multiple communities at once in my feed. So what I mean by this is when I log into Facebook, I'm going to log in to look at my friends. I'm going to log in to see an event, or I'm going to log in to look at a group. That's the same kind of behavior as Instagram, right? I'm going to follow a hashtag, or I'm going to look at my friends' feeds. On Twitter, you log in, the user behavior is to look at multiple brands, people, companies in my feed at once. And people do a lot more search on Twitter than they do on the other platforms. So it's a lot easier as a brand to kind of get visibility on Twitter than it is on some of these other platforms.
Got it. Interesting. Twitter is not dying. That was helpful. That's another. See, we're just cracking myths in the head here. That's good to know because I'd even wondered that too. Because a lot of times someone new and they haven't bumped into Twitter yet, and it took me having my boss when I got my first online marketing job. He's like, "Hey, you on Twitter? Let's do it." And go get a profile. Okay, Roger, I got one now.
Yeah.
So it's not dying, and
it's not.
And go where the audience is, especially for all those folks on B2B side listening now, which is the majority of you. LinkedIn, Twitter, you've heard it.
Yeah, and it depends on the industry, right? Obviously in certain, if you're in the ed tech industry or some other ones that are maybe like not the traditional kind of B2B tech industries, it might be Instagram these days. It might be something else. It might be Pinterest.
Right.
It might still be Facebook, right? Again, it kind of depends. You have to do a little bit of research, but I think what's really interesting is still this idea of micro communities. I keep coming back to is that you can form them. They're already out there, right? People already have grouped around these hashtags. They've grouped around these influencers. So just do a little bit of research and you'll find where your audience is sharing things already, where they're talking to other people in their industry. And I promise you, no matter what industry it is, there is a community out there on social media. It might just not be where you expect, right?
Right. Man, this is exciting. I'm really looking forward to, hitting up Socito. You're not even paying me to say this, but I'm like really intrigued to go find marketers and whether tell them about the podcast or, talk about Cheshire Impact or folks that have Pardot. That's actually how I found a lot of people that work at Cheshire Impact now is that I was out there looking for people that were as goofy, crazy, in love with Pardot as I was.
Right.
And I went after them. I was like, hey, I love it too. Come over here, that kind of thing.
Right. Exactly.
Very cool, man. So who are you? Where did you come from to become this king wizard of social, and all this experience? Like, how did this start? Take me back.
Yeah. So, I mean, the one thing you need to know about me is that I'm kind of a nerd about narrative theory or storytelling in general. So,
Yeah.
I studied English in college. I'm a bit of a writer on the side, right? So that's my deal. It's my shtick. So for me, it's always been marketing. It's always been communications. And so when I kind of first was getting into the first little baby Adam getting into the corporate world, it was, hey, I want to help brands tell their stories. And I was introduced
Yeah.
to marketing automation. I was introduced to Marketo. I was introduced to the marketing ops world. And I realized, whoa, we can tell stories. We can tell them to the people who want to hear them.
Right.
In a way that they want to hear it. We don't just have to blast this out there. And that kind of opened up an entire world to me. And so really, I've been at B2B companies like F5 Networks. Obviously, I'm here at Socito. I've been in the B2C world. I was doing consumer electronics marketing over at Amazon. So I've kind of seen the gamut of things. And really what's interesting to me is that for social media specifically, we have this huge opportunity to make use of all the data that actually occurs on social media, everything that everyone's posting, who they are, what they care about. It's in the public way, right? Not the private stuff, but everything that people are just posting
That's
online.
a good point.
Right? There's the dark side to it too, but we can actually stay just playing by the rules with everything that people are posting, caring about, following, etc. We can combine that with the rich engagements and experiences that people want to have on social. And as marketing, we get to craft those two things together. And so we say, here's the people, here's what they care about, here's the stories, and let's actually make an experience on a social network that people care about. And so that's what I'm super passionate about.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's all that data that, especially on Twitter, that and ideally people are sharing. If you don't know, there's share a mixture of personal and professional.
Right.
And you find your own ratio, but for me, sometimes I say 50-50, some people say 80-30, whatever, but it's a measure of you, and then a measure of the things you care about, and also wanting to give value to the people following you as well. It's not just brushing your teeth, but here's a really cool marketing person you need to follow. Hey, go follow Adam. Look at these cool videos, right? Those kind of things. But then also, hey, I really love this. I just did a triathlon. So people get the real sense of who you are. But that makes such amazing data that you can use. You don't know that about someone when they just fill out your form. So there's all this other context. So I could see what an opportunity to go and utilize that where it maybe hasn't really been used in the past.
That's right. That's right. I mean, if you think about even the people who quote unquote don't post about business on their social media,
Sure.
Everyone I've ever met tweets when they're going to an event, and they tweet at the event.
Yeah.
Conference or something, right? Or business.
Yeah.
Well, that's huge. As a marketer, that's all I need to know. Oh, you went to Dreamforce? Great. We're there too. Let's connect. Here's our sessions. Let's follow up after the event. Did you see this?
Good point.
I mean, it's just that one piece of data gives me a lot of information. And then to your point, right? Someone's tweeting about, hey, they're running a marathon, they're doing a triathlon or something. We had a sales rep here at Socito who his very first outreach email, he sent, hey, looks like you're a runner too. I just completed this marathon. Would love to chat about it. Also, do you want to chat about Socito? And that person responded. They got into a sales deal.
Of course they want to chat. Yeah.
Right? It's so easy, and it's such a two-way communication on social media that it's really kind of an untapped opportunity. I mean, especially for B2B, the social media platforms have figured it out. For the B2C world, you can target people based off of their gender and their age and their location and their kind of topical interests. But for B2B, we kind of have to take the next step and do it a little bit on our own and say, hey, this person seems to be working at this company that I care about. And also they are following this competitor and they're tweeting these things. These are all reasons for me to reach out and talk to them and start a conversation.
Right. Interesting. So you've been dealing with stories, and you've been sort of passionate about stories for a long time.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier narrative theory. We've talked about native storytelling, but what is narrative theory?
Yeah. So narrative theory is just the idea of why do people tell stories and what's the point of stories, right? What's the impact of them, right? So you get everything from I'm going to influence someone with the story that I'm trying to tell now.
Sure.
And what does that structure look like? What I'm super passionate about is this idea that a narrative or a story can be this kind of active subversion. It can be a way to change people or shake them or get them out of the status quo.
Interesting.
And if you think about it, that's really what marketing is at the end of the day, right?
Right.
You're already using this solution or you're doing things the old way. We have this new product. Here's the dream. Let's paint the picture. Let's help you envision how to do it a little bit differently. And now, okay, great. Get into our free trial so you can actually see how it works, right? I mean, that's essentially what marketing is telling that story. And so that's what I'm super passionate about. That's why I do B2B marketing, is because it's a longer story. You get the relationship to talk about it.
There's actually a story there.
Exactly. Yeah, which is really fun for me, especially. And then, of course, the reason why I'm here at Socito is because social media is like the ultimate place to be able to tell compelling stories, right? Like email, everything gets kind of copy tested to death, right?
Yeah,
and
it gets washed out.
But on social, things are happening so quickly that you can really just respond in real time. Someone says they have a question about something, great, go jump in, be the expert, talk to them about it, right?
Right. You get that feedback from your audience that you may not get. You may get a blank stares if it's email. I remember doing webinars with even my own company or other people, and if I do have to do a screen share, the whole screen is up and I can't see their faces anymore. Right. It's almost like you're presenting blind. You have no one to interact with. You don't know if anyone thought your corny joke was funny or not. You have no idea. Versus like doing it live. So to have the interaction, being so fast paced on social, you throw a video on Periscope, you get it on Twitter, you got hundreds of people watching. I'm sure they're probably even engaging with you too, which has got to be so fun to be a part of that story and that dialogue really on your own little narrative.
Exactly. So I mean, that's me. I'm a storyteller at heart. See me writing plays in my spare time, and then
let's talk about this. So you have a goal to write like a play a month or something like that? Is that
no? God, no, a year.
No? A year. Okay. Yeah, I was like, it's extreme, but Year. Okay. So how many have you done so far?
I've done a couple so far. So I produced my first one a couple years ago. Did a little theater here in Seattle. I co-wrote it with a couple of friends, and then actually decided, hey, this thing's kind of cool, seems doable. Let's try it. So produced a play.
What's it called?
It's called Love Train. It's about these three friends who kind of take a trip together, but something maybe a little bit mysterious happened on their vacation, and now they're taking a train ride home and they have to figure out what happened.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's just super fun. And so I write about a play a year, kind of work with some local actors in the city. And it's really just kind of a fun way to spend my time and try to stay busy.
Totally. And I was sharing this with you earlier, but I'm huge. I love theater and I did acting all through growing up. And then when I was deployed, I had like 6 months on exciting kick-ass missions, which is where my cool album cover came from. And then the last month I was on guard duty. Like everyone had to do a shift. Thankfully mine was at the end. But then I'm sitting on a guard post for 12, 18 hours all by myself in the heat. And, I designed a time machine, but I also wrote a play like while I was there. And so and that's fascinating that you wrote, like what drove you to write one? Had you been in theater as well, or?
Yeah. So I did a lot of studied acting when I was younger.
Sure.
So I've always kind of been involved in theater a little bit.
Right.
And really, so I'm also a novelist. I'm also a poet. I studied poetry in college. I know I do a little bit of everything. I a little too, all over the place. But what's really interesting to me is that there's really no feedback loop when it comes to fiction writing or when it comes to poetry. You can publish, but it's going to take a while. Then you got to, even if you're in a writer's group, you don't get everything you want right away. It's only works in progress.
Writers groups are so critical.
And they're so critical. So I was like, you know what? I want to do something where I can just put it out there, make some people laugh, and get some immediate feedback. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a play. We're going to produce this play. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a little bit silly. And we're just going to do it. And it's, one of the coolest experiences of my life. But
totally, especially having it produced, having your work come to life. And was it three people, like three friends? Is there more cast to it, or was it just like three people?
It's just, three people on stage, kind of there's back and forth dialogue, arguing about things.
Interesting. Did you, by the time you wrote it, did you have people in mind that would play those parts and that's how you built those characters, or did you create those characters from like literally scratch?
No, just kind of wrote the play based off of, I mean, yeah, based off of the people in my life. But,
Yeah, totally. That's,
yeah.
that's what I did. I had my people cast already. I was like, okay, I know.
Oh, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
Yeah, and then we did casting. The cool thing about Seattle is it's such a kind of artistic community
yeah.
in Seattle, and so we cast some really amazing actors in it that took it and ran with it, and so made my words a lot better than what I had originally written, and it was
Right. Did you
super
go
well.
back and then update it a little bit
Yeah,
and make some
yeah,
changes? That's cool.
kind of
I
always
have
evolving.
I've yet to do that with mine. And I told you earlier, one of the things I did was I didn't know who to publish it with, so I created my own publishing company.
Right, that's
It,
right. Yeah,
yeah, it was called Cheshire Comedy. So, and Cheshire Comedy Publishing, and we actually had a contest called the funniest play on earth. So every year, people would send in their script, and the prize was like you get published, and you get $1,000 and all this good stuff. And so people would send in their plays. Now, what I didn't realize is when you create this contest, and you create a company to do this. I mean, I love writing plays and marketing and stuff like that, but your job shifts to reading hundreds of really
right.
shitty
Really
plays,
bad
right?
place.
Really bad
Yeah,
ones. Now we
yeah.
obviously found a couple good ones, and they won the contest. But like, I was like, I don't want to read a bunch of garbage plays. It was fun having stuff come to my my house office, whatnot, with the name on it. And it was someone
Right.
sent a script. It was really cool, but there was a lot of bad ones out there, and so. I realized that wasn't really a company I wanted to keep doing, but it was such a cool experiment. Did you publish yours or
No,
self-publish or not? Nothing yet.
I have yet to publish it. I'm not sure what to do with it yet.
Yeah,
So we'll see. I just kind of keep writing, right? It's always the next thing for me. So
right.
we'll see what happens. But
And you got the hook up with a local theater company so that you can get it
yeah,
performed. So it almost doesn't even matter if you publish at this point. But it'd be kind of neat to find out that you got your show happening at 5 different theaters across the U.S. Maybe fly to one, see it perform.
that's right.
You're in the audience, no one knows.
That's right. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. So yeah, be on the lookout for the name Adam Hutchinson. Yeah, go visit your local theater.
Done, man. And follow you on Twitter. And hey, maybe you can just share with everyone what's the best place to find you. Twitter, LinkedIn, great places to find you, and then also some URLs for you and Socito.
Yeah, definitely. Totally connect with me on Twitter. I'm
Yeah.
constantly checking my messages. So just at Adam is writing. You can also feel free to email me, adam@socito.com. Super simple. Always happy to chat marketing or answer any questions. Socito, you can check us out, blog.socito.com is where we kind of keep up to date. We published a lot of guest posts on there too. So you want kind of some different perspectives.
Cool.
Follow us at Socito. That's where all of those Periscope videos I was talking about, we host those.
Yeah.
And then, if you are interested in a free trial of our product, just Sociedo.com, SOCEDO.com. We have a free trial that you can actually try out everything I was just talking about. It's
Cool.
kind of an open access thing, and our sales team will actually help you out with that. We can set you up. We can look at the integration. We can try a few things together.
Yeah. You mentioned even integrating with Pardot too.
That's right. Yeah, we integrate with Pardot, Marketo, Eloqua, HubSpot, and Salesforce. So, we do it all.
Awesome. We'll have to do more of like a show and tell, a webinar for some of the Cheshire users who are on Pardot, who want to see how the integration works and that kind of thing. Get a little more tactical with folks. We could do something separately from that.
Absolutely.
Cool. And next time I'm in the area, you're in the area, let's hop on Periscope, make it happen.
Let's do it. All right.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. This has been a super blast. And again, feel free to push back anyone who's listening on anything I'm saying. Comment on me. Keep me honest. Give me your perspective. Because the coolest thing is that this is just what works for me. This is what works for some of our clients. But social's constantly evolving. So there's always a different way to do it.
If you want to call bullshit, hit them up on Twitter.
Do it.
Make it happen. Oh, man, this has been great. Well, thanks again for being here, and then everyone else listening. If you liked it, share it with someone. It's on all the different platforms. So let someone know about it. And this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. Thanks, everyone.